know how they're all like saying hello, no?
Sorry, guys.
We shall
All
guys.
happy songs today. We're doing happy songs. What's with that?
It's Easter.
Easter.
Spring.
Come on, it's a happy.
Springing into Easter. Here comes the
One.
birds.
Let's see. One, two, three. 1, 2, 3.
Good morning. My name is Reverend Kylie Renner, and on behalf of the entire One Spiritual Center community, I want to welcome you here on this particularly spectacularly beautiful Easter morning here in Albuquerque. Thank you for bringing your love into this space this morning. So I want to tell you that as a minister, Easter is one of those holidays that has always been kind of, mostly because no matter what, there's just like all of this pressure. And you don't even have to be a Christian minister to have to like say something profound about Jesus every year. And there's all these expectations, and it's often been a lot just more work. And so I've broken free from that, but I want to tell you the story of my first Easter as a minister because it was pretty gosh darn funny now that I look back at it. So it was really, really early in the morning, like really early, and I got a phone call. And it was someone who I hadn't heard from for a while. In fact, never had called me before, hasn't called me since. But that morning, they called. They were happened to be one of a minister who'd been a longtime minister and was a colleague of mine at the time. And he was all like, "Kylie, it's your first Easter. What are you doing?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he's all like, well, I'm about to go do a sunrise service on the beach and we're going to release white doves. And we hired a harp player. And I said, oh, that's special. Exactly. And I just had that moment of like, oh my God, what did I do? What did I not do? So anyway, maybe not do that to people who are having their first Easter Sunday as a new minister. Maybe that's not the nicest thing you could do. But I'm in this space, though, of realizing that all of that hoopla, right? Like, none of that really matters. What we have around us, spring, this beautiful day, that's what the energy of this holiday really is about. And so I do have some thoughts about Easter that I'll share in a bit, but I'm just so grateful to have broken free at least from some of those expectations, because they are ridiculous, honestly. Yes, doves. Yes, we're definitely going to have doves next year. Just wait. We might not be able to do it here because the hawks might decide that the doves are tasty treats. So we might not want that imagery. But we are going to anchor in prayer this morning, just bringing ourselves present to this beautiful day, letting go of expectations and ideas and the need to know what comes next. And we just allow ourselves to be present. And as we bring ourselves present, we come into contact with that bigger life that is unfolding all around us. And I just recognize the power and the presence of the love that is moving through all of us and through this beautiful day. And I just recognize the energy of connection as we open ourselves to fully give and receive the energy of love and renewal. So I just breathe into this holy moment. And I let it be. And so it is.
Like the first morning, blackbird has spoken, like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung from completeness where his sweet bless. Every morning, God's recreation.
I've chosen a poem by Mary Oliver to lead into our meditation this morning. It's entitled Sunrise. You can die for it, an idea, or the world. People have done so brilliantly, letting their small bodies be bound to the stake, creating an unforgettable fury of light. But this morning, climbing the familiar hills in the familiar fabric of dawn, I thought of China and India and Europe. And I thought how the sun blazes for everyone just so joyfully as it rises under the lashes of my own eyes. And I thought, I am so many. What is my name? What is my name? Of the deep breath I would take over and over for all of us. Call it whatever you want. It is happiness. It is another one of the many ways to enter the fire. And so we just breathe in to the deep breath that we would take over and over for all of us, and we allow the meditation to move us this morning.
That was a tune by John Bartlett.
Didn't play some instruments.
Thank you guys. It really is a gloriously beautiful day out here. So blessed. So I've been thinking a lot about hope and the return of light and the return of life. Not just because of Easter, but because I finally was able to schedule and get my second vaccine shot. Yay. So I had some challenges with scheduling, and then when I got to the actual point where I could get my shot and had an appointment, they almost didn't give it to me because it had been so long since my first one, and it was all this whole big dance. And Zephyr finally was able to get his first shot this week, and it feels like there's this return of some sort of hope, and that we could, return to some sense in which we can be in this world and feel like not imminent disaster around every corner. But I realized that there's a lot of that energy around hope and the return and the resurrection that is not just latent in this season where we're watching all of life return around us, but there's this sense in which this story of Easter is really a story about how we find our way back to ourselves, especially after really difficult things happen, whether it's individually or collectively. And so some of you will remember that just this time last year, we lost my father-in-law, and that was incredibly difficult. And the story of Easter reminds me of that really human desire for life to come back after it's been gone. Like, really, it's like one of the most elemental human stories is somehow we have to deal with the fact that life doesn't just keep on going, at least in this form. And that is, in fact, one of those human things that we have to get really comfortable with because it's part of this thing we do. That when we love deeply, it really, really, really hurts to be without that love on the other side of that. And so I've been thinking about this like kind of primal, powerful story that is the Easter story, that's about how we find our way through the fact that in order to get to that resurrection, there had to have been a body in the tomb for a while, right? There had to have been that kind of loss. And that we all have our own experiences of that. We each have our own story of being in the tomb, right? In our own way. And it looks different for everyone. But somehow in this resiliency of the human heart and the human experience, we find a way of coming back to life. And it looks different often than it did on the other side, but there's this really powerful way in which we're just incredibly capable of doing this. And I find it so brilliantly heartbreaking and breathtakingly beautiful that we figure it out, right? That somehow we figure it out. And it is so hard to sit with someone, over the course of my career and my life, just being in that space of not being able to take away the pain of the tomb experience, but also completely and totally trusting that the spirit that is in that person will find a way to be resurrected on the other side of it. Is so incredibly beautiful. And so there's this right pull of this season because we recognize that there's like this infinite pull inside of us. It's just asking us to continuously be willing to go deeper into what it really means to be fully human, while at the same time be fully infinite at the same time, right? To have this human experience, but to also to remember that we're so much more than that. So I came across a story that I had been told years ago about a philosophy professor in New York City who was really fond of having philosophical conversations with his taxi drivers. And he liked to ask them, all kinds of questions and see what their answers would be. But the favorite story he liked to tell was about a cab driver showing who had an inclination to talk about himself. So he started this conversation asking him, well, are you happy? And the cabbie said, well, no, I have too many problems. And so the philosophy professor said, well, what would make you happy? And he said, well, give me $1 million and I'd have it made. All right. The philosophy professor said, okay, so you have $1 million. What will you do? And he said, well, I'll pay off all my debts. And, oh, fine. Okay, so your debts are all paid. Now what? I said, well, I'd buy a house, maybe 2 or 3 in different climates. Good. Okay. So then what? Well, then I'd want a wife. And, as long as we're fantasizing, he said, I'll take several. Let's say in different cities. And I could travel around to them. And, okay, done. The philosophy professor said, now what? And so he proposed travel and to indulge in his hobbies and to see and do things he'd always dreamed of. And he said, okay, granted. What more? And so right then the driver started to quiet down, and he suddenly turned around right in the middle of the crowded street. The philosophy professor quite a fright. And he said, well, say there's something funny going on here. I can't seem to get to the bottom of this. What am I really looking for after all? And at the point, the philosopher professor said that he had got him hooked and was able to show him that the human being had this unlimited capacity to search for even more good in the midst of all of the challenges. And I love this story just from the perspective of the things that cause us to really start to look at that limitless desire inside of us to be resurrected over and over again. Like this idea that we have this capacity to turn resurrection into kind of verb in our lives, that we use it as this opening to access all of the good that is possible. And the remembrance that on every side, on every edge of good is always more good that we get to encounter. And so this commitment to allow ourselves to find the darkness and the challenge and then be resurrected from it and to come back into life is this really powerful urge inside of all of us to find our way into a deeper sense of good, no matter what's going on. And I find it so interesting, right? That there's this sense in which I think all of us wish that somehow that wasn't what we've signed up for, but we did. That in fact the cycles around us in nature show us exactly what we signed up for. Right? We signed up for winter, and then we signed up for spring. And that in fact we're so deeply connected to that we experience it in ways that we don't even realize. And so there's so much power in realizing the extreme beauty of all of the parts of the cycle, the parts in which we find ourselves feeling like we don't know how we could possibly go on, and then remembering that there's also the part of us that will always rise up again. And that within all of us is that hope and that message and that remembrance that truly we're connected to this bigger thing that is trying to happen. So there's this piece that I shared a few years ago that Parker Palmer wrote about this beautiful poem by a Guatemalan poet that's entitled "Threatened with Resurrection." And the poem is beautiful, and I'm not going to share it right now. But what you should look it up if you're interested. Julia Esquivel is the author, but what I love is just the title, right? Threatened with resurrection. It's like it's a challenge, something that we're being, not something that's an invitation that seems, I really want to do that. Instead, it's this idea that in fact that resurrection, like coming back to life, is in fact like something that feels threatening or dangerous. And I feel like that there's always that part of that process of coming back to life where we feel the threat of that, right? We feel the threat of what is possible, and it feels too big. It feels too scary. It feels like we're not capable of it. And so this is what Parker Palmer says about this. I've been taught that death is the great threat and resurrection the great hope. But at the time I found Esquivel's book, I was experiencing the death in life called depression. And her title jarred me into the hard realization that figurative forms of death sometimes feel comforting, while resurrection or the hope of new life feels threatening. Why? Because death in life can bring us a perverse sense of relief. When I was depressed, nobody expected anything of me, nor did I expect anything of myself. I was exempt from life's demands and risks, but if I were to find a new life, who knows what daunting tasks I might be required to take on. Sometimes we choose death in life, as in compulsive overactivity, unhealthy relationships, nonstop judgmentalism aimed at self or others, work that compromises our integrity, substance abuse, pervasive cynicism, etc., because we're afraid of the challenges that might come up if we embraced resurrection in life. Every religious tradition is rooted in mysteries I don't pretend to understand, including claims about what happens after we die. But this I know for sure, as long as we're alive, choosing resurrection is always worth the risk. I'm grateful for the people and experiences that continue to help me to embrace the threat of resurrection. My Easter wish for everyone is the ability to say yes to life. Even when life challenges us, its gifts are beyond all measure. And so I realized a deep truth in this part of the process that Parker so beautifully speaks of, that place where we get to be asked a deeper question, being asked to say yes in a deeper way, that is always part of the process of renewal, and the requirement to accept the fact that feels threatening sometimes, that can allow us to open to the real power of renewal that takes us out of where we've been and really transforms us into something new. And so I've been thinking about just how challenging this last year has been for so many of us on all kinds of different levels, and the need to find a collective form of resurrection, to be able to not just let ourselves be renewed and revived, but also to be able to shine the light for other people to make that same kind of transformation. And I know that is something, spiritual people talk about a lot, is that the transformation that we're doing isn't just for ourselves, it's for life itself. But I just love the way that Mary Oliver spoke of it in the poem I started with this idea that it's the breath I would take over and over for all of us. And the willingness to take a breath over and over for all of us, is the story for me of the real power of the story of Jesus of Nazareth, and the imagery around that, but also just this idea, like, what kind of breath could we take for each other? Be willing to take for one another, so that other people can breathe, so that we all breathe more powerfully and more freely. And so I'm in this sense right now that we're collectively opening to some way in which we get to care for one another even deeper than we thought we're being led to during this time, where we were wearing masks to protect one another. Like, really, the kind of renewal that is being called out of us is a way in which we're being asked to really lift this whole thing we're doing together into this whole nother level, where we're breathing for one another and reminding each other to breathe, and creating a space in which something really new and powerful can happen. And so for me right now, I'm just really interested in how I can practice resurrection as something that is not something I want to avoid or feels threatening, but something I invite into my life. which means I also invite that which comes before the resurrection. I invite the whole process that then allows for this real life that we've been called into to be born again. And so I'm going to ask the band to come on up because we're going to sing into our prayer today. And as we prepare the way for that, I'm just going to invite you to maybe think about some area of your life that could use renewal. Maybe some idea of yourself. And I'm going to share this poem as we prepare the way. It's a poem by Mark Nepo. It's called Free Fall. If you have 1 hour of air and many hours to go, you must breathe slowly. If you only have 1 arm's length and many things to care for, you must give freely. If you have only 1 chance to know God and many doubts, you must set your heart on fire. We are blessed. Every day is a chance. We have 2 arms. Fear wastes air. And so as we sing into our prayer this morning, I'm just inviting us into a space of remembering that every day is a chance. This day is a chance. And we just allow Spirit to guide us in our resurrection.
Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, sets us free.
So our prayer of love is a prayer of remembering that no matter where we are in the cycle of creation, in the cycle of renewal and resurrection, that right where we are is the power and the presence of the One. Whether we're in the stage where it feels like nothing is changing or the challenges are insurmountable, Spirit is right there. Or if we're in the glory of new beginnings and beauty springing up around us everywhere, Spirit is right there as well. And I just recognize the power of opening to allowing for every step of the transformation to guide us more deeply into why we're really here, who we really are, what we've come here to be and to do. And I just know that the honoring of Spirit and the One in all of the places opens us more deeply to the invitation and the beauty. And so we just let that beauty guide us deeper and more fully into this experience that we signed up here for on this planet, in which we get to experience the mystery of how, when all seems lost, we somehow find a way back to life. And each time deeper and more powerfully connected. And I just honor that beautiful story of renewal that we're all participating in. As we remember and we remind one another of the hope that lives in the center of us. And I just let go. And I let it be. And so it is.
Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. It's a tune by Cedar Walton. He's kind of a famous jazz piano player. He plays really fast. Ready, Johnny? Yeah. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you, guys. And thank you all for joining us on this beautiful day. Also want to thank everyone for watching online as well. Hopefully, we will be able to see some of you in person as more and more of us get vaccinated. So we would love to see you and can't wait for us to be able to gather together again soon as a full community. But I'm really glad that we can say that we didn't lose anyone along the way because of the choices we made in church. So thank you for continuing to support us as we, we're going to be hot now. We were cold for many months, and now we're going to be hot. Although soon the trees will have leaves, and at least we'll have some shade again. Yeah, record-breaking heat this week. So, yeah, my dad's probably watching online wondering what the heck is going on. It's hot now. It was snowing 2 weeks ago, and now it's hot. So let's see. We have baskets in the trees if you'd like to make a contribution to this community in person here in that way. We also have a spot on our website, onespiritualcenter.org, and then I will also drop the PayPal link in the comments online so that you can give that way if you choose to. I want to just say thank you for continuing to support this community in that way. It makes it so we can continue to do what we do. So thank you. And let's see. I think we're ready to sing. What do you think? I think we're ready. Let's sing. Happy Easter, everyone.
One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart. Let's give thanks to the Lord and we can feel alright. People get ready for the train a-coming. Don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is faith. Hear that diesel humming. You don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord. One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart. Let's give thanks to the Lord and we can feel alright. People get ready for that train to Jordan. Picking up passengers from coast to coast. Faith is the key. Open the doors and board 'em. There's room for all that love the most. One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart. Let's give thanks to the Lord and we can feel alright. Let's get together and feel alright.
We have one last blessing to sing to one another.
Walk
Movement of the people.